introduction and invitation to everybody to find a comfortable seated position and to honor that that might not be sitting on the ground. Maybe that's sitting in a chair or at the edge of a couch or something like that where your feet are flat and your knees can be over your ankles. So please honor your bodies and whatever might be arising for you today. And finding a comfortable seated position, I use a pillow to sit up onto, and then I bring in props for my knees. So I use a little something underneath my right knee, which wants a little more support. If your legs are floating in the air, I highly recommend that you bring in props, pillows, blankets. They don't have to be yoga props per se, but I do highly recommend that you grab some things that can prop your body, like pillows and blankets, or even rolled up towels are great. Sometimes a scarf or a sweatshirt, pillows or things off of couches, beds, whatever might be at hand. Welcome, Sarah. Good to see you today. So we'll find that comfortable seated position and invite yourself to settle into your body by just uh, taking a moment to assess if there's anything else you need to do in your external environment, like turning off a cell phone or making sure you have what you need at hand. And then allow yourself to tune inward. And so we can begin the process of closing our eyes and perhaps even inviting a gesture that's grounding for you, whatever that might be for you in your body. And we can begin to quiet the mind to the sound and sensation of the breath, arriving in this body, in this breath, in this moment, together with a shared intention of integrating body, mind, and breath, encouraging a presence and a focus. I'm going to begin with a little ring of the gong so that we together shift gears out of the machinations of our day and into this sacred practice of yoga. Bringing your palms together in Anjali Mudra, rest your chin towards your chest and allow for a few breaths as you open up the back of the neck, spilling the head forward gently and relaxing the shoulders. You might feel the urge to exhale through the mouth. We'll interlace our fingers and together press our palms towards the center of our virtual circle. Reaching the hands forward and drawing the heart backwards gently, allowing for the upper spine perhaps to round a little bit as you reach through the palms and relax the leg bones, relax the shoulders, relax the jaw. Deepening the breath. On an in-breath, we'll reach the arms all the way up, stretching tall and continuing to extend upward through the arms. You might choose to release your hands if your shoulders are happier that way. Relax the shoulders and let the armpits open. Keep stretching up through the arm bones, and as you do so, invite the leg bones to start to fall even more heavily. Relaxing the groins, relaxing the hips, relaxing the low back. Breathing deeply as we stretch through the arms and extend up through the spine. We'll start to access some space between the rib cage and the pelvis, and we'll start to drop the right hand on an exhale and gently stretch a little further open through the left side body, and then press off the right hand and take a ride. Inhale, up and over, exhaling as you fall to the left hand, right arm reaching. Inhaling up and over and exhaling, opening up that left side body, just moving at your own breath's pace here, allowing it to feel delicious to you. Whatever variation of this movement feels exactly right to you. Let the leg bones remain heavy. Let the pelvis remain relaxed. Give yourself permission to take a ride, finding a little sense of suspension perhaps as you come up and over on the in-breath. Perhaps you can find a little fall into the hand on the out-breath. Noticing what feels good to you in your body in this moment, in this breath. And letting the breath flow freely. Letting the movement flow freely. When it feels right to you, catch yourself upward on an in-breath. Interlace your fingers and draw them behind the head. Let the shoulders relax and arrive in a hammock. Take a moment or two. Allow for the pelvis, the low back, the groins to relax. Allow the shoulders to drop away from the ears. And then just stretch the elbows back a little bit into the hammock itself. Reach the elbows away from the body. And then exhale, curl the elbows together. Draw the chin gently towards the chest and allow the upper spine to round and whatever happens naturally from there. Inhaling, opening wide. Maybe the head starts to fall gently into the hands. Exhaling, curling in, moving at your own breath's pace. When it feels right to you, allow for this rounded position to be held for a few more breaths. Observe the breath as it moves into the back of the neck, the top of the shoulders, perhaps even the space behind the heart. When it feels natural to you, the elbows rest in the lap, the wrists heavy to the legs. We'll start to invite the shoulders to roll back toward a neutral position and continue to explore the head. Just give in to the weight of the cranium and let it fall off to the side slowly. And then let it drop back in towards center and fall off to the other side. And allow the movement to be as subtle as it feels natural and right to you, or perhaps there's more range of motion that feels comfortable for you. You might even find yourself exploring the back space with the cranium, just allowing the weight of your skull to take you for a ride. So relax in the shoulders, relax the spine, relax the pelvis, and allow the torso to respond naturally to the weight of the cranium. Avoid any need to isolate or find some um, feeling like something has to be held. Just allow for the weight of the cranium to be a point of information for you as it rolls around, however that feels natural and delicious to you in this moment. Breathing deeply in and out through the nose, observing the natural ebb and flow of the breath. You might even hear a hum of the breath, sort of like an oceanic hum that you'd hear if you picked up a conch shell and put it to your ear. Breathing deeply here. Ultimately, resting the chin forward and dropping the hands behind the back. It might feel natural to interlace the fingers here. It might feel better to take the fingertips to the earth behind you or to a prop behind you. We're going to encourage the shoulder blades to kiss one another behind the heart. And we're going to invite the chin to rest forward to the degree that it feels safe and right to you and your body. So we're opening the back of the neck by resting the chin forward, and we're reaching the shoulder blades in toward one another behind the heart. Maybe the hands are together. You might even take what's known as Kali Mudra, extending the index fingers as you interlace the others behind the back. You might even invite a subtle movement to the head and neck if that feels like the right thing to do. Breathing deeply here and relaxing the shoulders away from the ears, encouraging the shoulder blades to melt in toward one another even more with the next exhale. We're going to release the hands and float the arms out and open. The palms will be open, the fingers will be spread. And we'll continue to feel the shoulder blades connected behind the heart. So as we extend through our arms, we're going to relax the pelvis. We're going to notice if we're feeling strain or discomfort in the low back, and we're going to invite any subtle adjustments that need to be made here. That might include an adjustment in our legs, an adjustment in the propping, maybe a repositioning in the legs. So please feel free to find and be curious about what might support ease in your body. It might be a subtle shift forward or back in the leaning of your spine. You never know. Let's now take the right arm across the body and bend the left elbow so that the left hand captures the right arm, wherever that's natural to you. You can kind of relax the right arm and let it be weighted in the left hand. Let the left elbow be actually weighted against the body as a point of leverage or like a fulcrum to hold the weight of that right arm. And then we can just gently guide that right arm across the body to whatever degree is safe and happy for your right shoulder. And at this point, you might enjoy turning your chin towards the right shoulder. So we're going to focus our attention in the right shoulder and also in the right lung. And see if we can just let that right lung fill up into that right shoulder. Creating as much space in the right shoulder as possible here and gently guiding the right arm across the body, the left elbow resting at your side, using the least amount of muscular tension possible. Breathing deeply into the right shoulder. Take another moment here to play with the height of the right arm. So notice maybe lifting it up a little bit more, maybe dropping it down a little bit more. Just be curious about how that changes your access to the right shoulder. See what feels like the right place for you to breathe just a little bit more. And take it around to the other side now. Let the right elbow come towards the body. Relax that right shoulder. And place the right arm open to receive the left arm. Let the left arm be weighted into the right hand, and begin to gently turn the chin towards the left shoulder as you focus your breath and attention in that left shoulder. Maybe you're gently guiding that left arm across the body. So in order to keep the elbow at your body with less tension in the right shoulder, you can adjust the position of your hand closer to the elbow, perhaps, if that makes sense to you. And you might play with the height of that left arm. And just stay curious, breathing deeply into the left shoulder. And on an exhale, we can release the left elbow back towards the side body and rest the elbows and the wrists towards the lap for a moment. Just pause and observe the sensations in the body. Let's just do one more shoulder opener. We're going to take the arms all the way up and overhead. We're going to drop our hands towards opposite elbows. So maybe just the fingertips are resting at the tips of the elbows, but maybe we're feeling comfortable and we can start to walk our fingers just like inchworms around the tops of the elbows. We can play with what feels accessible to you. And as you do so, relax the shoulders a little bit more away from the ears. So the upper arm bones might end up resting on your head, and if that feels uncomfortable, you can encourage them subtly back. And for some of us, we might release one hand and just drop it, relaxed completely, dead weight behind the neck, and use one hand, the opposite hand on the elbow. So maybe that feels like a happy place to explore. So feel free to work with one hand and opposite elbow at a time if that's resonating as a safe and happy way for you to explore your shoulders. And also we're accessing the tricep muscles, so make sure you switch hand and elbow. Give yourself access to the other side, evening things out. Great. So once again, now I'm going to invite you to bring the elbows and the wrists to your legs. Let them be heavy to your legs. And we're going to just shrug the shoulders a few times. Up on the in-breath and down on the out-breath. Nice. And just drop it out, shake it out a little bit. So I'll invite us to begin to transition onto our hands and knees if we're feeling ready to do that for some cat-cow movement. If you're not happy on hands, wrists, or knees, stay seated and just take your cat-cows in this position with hands on knees. You can begin to rock and roll. So we're allowing for the heart space to start to roll forward and back, and the rest of the spine responds to the movement of the heart. Breathing deeply here. And if we're working from hands and knees, we're going to just take a moment to honor our wrists, maybe adjust the hands subtly forward of our shoulders just so that we can decrease the flexion in the wrists. So be curious about how you can be extra compassionate with your wrists, and absolutely cushion your knees. Folded blanket or pillow under the knees will make a big difference. And I'm going to also invite you to consider working with your feet here. So on the in-breath, let the toes tuck. And in fact, you might invite the hips, or rather the weight of the body, to fall back into the hips and the feet just subtly. And on the out breath, you can bring a little more action into the fingers as you release and press down into the tops of the feet. So I'm inviting the action of the feet, tucking the toes on the in-breath, letting the hips fall subtly back towards the feet. And on the out-breath, exhaling, you might even come up onto your fingertips and lift the back of the heart a little higher, drop the tailbone, press into the tops of the feet here. Moving at your own breath's pace, continuing to work with the feet and the fingers as it feels satisfying to you in your body. In this breath, in this moment, just present. I'll invite you to allow for any variations of movement that are coming naturally and organically to you. Think less, feel more. Maybe the hips are swaying from side to side, the shoulders, maybe it feels good to kind of look back towards your hips from one side to the other. Maybe it feels good to create some kind of rotational motion in the body. Maybe it feels good to let the hips fall forward toward the heels and then back up, towards the wrists, and then back towards the heels in some movement. Allow for whatever feels good to you. There's no right or wrong here. There's just this body, this breath, this moment. Let's move into a nice twist. Opening the left side of the body, let's take the left arm to the sky and allow for the right fingertips to be on the floor here. So we're coming out of the right wrist and out of the right shoulder. And we're going to push into the earth with the left knee as we reach open with the left arm. Breathing deeply and expanding across the body. Exhaling, we're going to scoop the left arm underneath. This is where you might bring a prop underneath the head. I like to use a block to collect my left ear, and it gives my left shoulder a little more space, my neck a little more space. And then you can drop your right hand onto your left hand, lift your right elbow, and direct your right shoulder back towards your right ear. The pelvis is relaxed and hovering over the knees. You might choose to tuck your toes here. We're encouraging the right shoulder to come over the left shoulder, the left ear dropping towards the earth. We're stacking the right lung over the left lung. We're melting the space between the shoulder blades. You might invite action downward through the back of the left arm into the earth And then take the right arm all the way up towards the ceiling. Reach the right fingertips towards the sky, or even drop the right fingertips behind the back if that feels like the right thing for you to do in this moment. You might choose to bring the right hand back to the left hand and enjoy that point of leverage as you direct the right shoulder all the way back towards the right ear. Breathing deeply here, resting the left ear towards the earth and melting the space between the shoulder blades with your breath. Taking your time, the right hand finds the mat and will open back up, finding that original stretch. The left arm opening towards the ceiling, the left knee rooting to the earth, the right shoulder spacious. On an exhale, returning to all fours, take a few breaths here. Allow for any variation of movement that feels good to you. You might enjoy some cat-cows again. You might be naturally inclined to move into a downward facing dog in this moment. You might feel inclined to drop back into a child pose, hips towards heels. Give yourself permission to just listen to your body wisdom. There's absolutely no right or wrong way to be in this moment, in this breath, in this body. Let yourself breathe through the spine and find some sense of neutrality, return in preparation for our twist in the other direction. So whenever it feels natural and right to you, I'll encourage you to take the left fingertips to the earth, the right arm to the sky, the right knee rooting down, the heart space rising up. And when it's right to you, for you, taking that twist, scooping the right arm under, the right shoulder and the right ear root to the earth. Again, I recommend a prop underneath that right ear. Consider giving yourself that little bit of space and see how it feels. Encouraging the stacking of the left shoulder over the right shoulder now. Again, the pelvis is floating over the knees. So give yourself a moment to check in with that. If the hips are coming back toward the heels too much, it may be that you're feeling crowded in your spine, which isn't a happy way to twist. So we want to create as much space in our spine as possible. So pelvis over knees and then spacious arrangement where the shoulder is dropping and we can spaciously, easily invite that twist. Breathing deeply here, right ear dropping. We're using the left arm as a point of leverage against the earth to help direct the left shoulder back. We might choose to root down into the earth with the back of the right arm and reach up to the sky with the left arm. That left arm might fall behind the back. We might flow in and out of the pose. Listen to your body wisdom. Allow for exactly what feels right to you in your body in this moment. Present in that ebb and flow of the breath. When it feels complete for you, again, finding an extension open to the right. Let's return to our original stretch, right arm to the sky, right knee to the earth. Let's take another moment to explore neutral, finding ourselves in whatever the spine is exploring naturally, some cat-cows or maybe a down dog. And then let's take Ustrasana, camel pose. We'll move into a back bend here. So we're going to walk our hands behind the hips, Or we might choose to take our um, block, if we happen to have one, to the side of the legs and use the block as a point of leverage for our fingertips to rest on as we lift up. So the key here is to avoid strain in the neck. So the way that we do that is we employ Jalandhara Bandha. A bandha is a seal, an energetic seal. And by dropping the chin towards the notch at the base of the throat, keeping our gaze directly forward, we're employing this Jalandhara Bandha, and we're directing the tailbone to the earth. We're rooting down through the legs and lifting up from the heart. So we're creating a sense of expansion and space through the spine. The heart space is opening to the breath. We might find ourselves in other variations. If you're familiar with other variations of the pose, of course, by all means, explore whatever feels natural to you. Breathing deeply into Anahata chakra. This is the heart space, the energy center of the heart. And so this is the hump of our camel. We're filling it up with breath, because along with the breath rides life force, or prana. So we're bringing in prana and life force into the heart space through camel pose, Ustrasana. Please feel free to take as much time here as it feels natural to you, tailbone dropping, heart space rising. And when it feels complete for you, I'm going to invite us into a child pose with support. So I'm going to encourage you to take yourself into a resting pose. Maybe you're going to even place a prop across your knees or even behind your knees, perhaps to rest your pelvis on, or to give your knees a little more support so the flexion of the knees isn't so intense. And then I'll invite you to bring in a prop, a pillow, a rolled up blanket, or something to possibly put across your chest and to collect your forehead. So that ultimately what happens is that you're being held. You're using the props to sort of hold the bones and the joints up in a way that allows the pelvis and the skull to be more aligned and parallel to the earth, rather than having the hips high and the head low. So if you have some props, play with them, see what feels yummy to you. Rest your skull, rest your elbows, rest your forehead. Allow for a few breaths here. I'm going to ring my gong once again and invite you to just drop a little more deeply. Consider the weight of your bones falling even more heavily here with each exhale. Taking just a couple more breaths here. As you exhale, let the breath fall from the mouth. Heavy skull, breathing deeply here. And invite with your next exhale the possibility of rocking the forehead ever so subtly, super subtle rock of the forehead. If you're on a block or on the earth, it might feel like a nice little acupressure across the um, eyebrows. Just allow for a subtle rock in the forehead if that feels right to you. And then take your time to begin the process of shifting ever so slowly. And taking your time, once again, I'm going to invite us into a downward facing dog. So if you haven't already, let's extend ourselves by pressing into the mat with your hands, and then pushing into the mat as well with your legs, with your feet. So I'm gonna encourage you to keep your knees subtly soft so that you're focusing on dropping the heels towards the earth and then spreading your fingers so you're focusing on pushing the mat forward with your hands and letting the armpits open up even wider with each breath. Let the head fall even more heavily with each breath. Focus again on the ankles, dropping the heels, releasing at the backs of the legs. Breathing deeply. Open the fingers even wider. Use all the fingers. That's it. Press into the meaty spot between your index and your thumbs and push the mat forward with your hands and pull the pelvis back with your leg strength, opening up the spine, opening up the shoulders. When it feels complete for you, I'm going to invite you to drop your knees back to the mat. We're going to spin around slowly and pull ourselves into a little ball here. We're going to wrap our arms around our legs with our feet on the floor for a moment and give ourselves a hug. That's it. So breathing just a little bit more here, resting the forehead towards the knees, allowing the back of the neck to open. Heavy skull towards the knees. And when it feels natural to you, I'm going to invite you to start to fall into the hips a little bit more by sliding the soles of the feet a little further forward, letting them stay connected. The feet are going to try to stay connected. We're going to open up the knees as the soles of the feet are touching each other. But again, the feet are coming away from the body, yeah? And then I'm going to invite you to just drop your torso forward. So if you keep the feet too close to the body, it's going to feel really congested and intense, and you're not going to necessarily feel quite the same satisfaction of access to your hips and your low back that you would if you bring your feet further forward. So play with that position and give yourself permission also to bring in some support in the form of a block or a pillow to collect your forehead so that you can surrender forward folding over bent knees in an open Baddha Konasana or Tirasana pose. And just let yourself breathe into the backside of the body as well as the pelvic bowl here. Feel the weight of the skull continue to fall forward. Allow for it. Breathing ever more deeply. So just a couple more breaths here, and then I'll invite you, when it feels natural and right to you, to make a transition. We're going to take ourselves into a supported, let me see what our timing is like. Actually, we're going to then bring our knees back up, bring our hands behind our knees, and start to round down through the spine. So give yourself plenty of time. This doesn't have to happen quickly. You can encourage this abdominal activity as you roll down through the spine carefully, giving your spine a little extra stretch, and then encourage the knees in towards the chest eventually, and opening into happy baby. So let's keep working with releasing in the hips and the groins, allowing the low back and the sacral space to melt out into the earth, the tailbone spilling down towards the earth, the skull heavy. We can turn our head and let the ears drop from one side to the other, checking in with the neck. In happy baby, I recommend keeping the elbows at your side on the mat, resting your hands behind your calf muscles and seeing how it feels to draw the ankles up over the knees in a way that is satisfying and safe with the least amount of muscular tension possible. Some of us are comfortable reaching hands up towards our feet or taking yogi toe lock. index fingers wrapped around the big toes. And if that's the case, it's likely the shoulders are going to come off the mat, but please encourage the weight of the arm bones to fall back towards the mat. So surrender the arm bones to gravity once you take your grip. Allow gravity in all places, in all ways, to be your friend here. Tailbone dropping, skull dropping, shoulders dropping, and muscular tension dropping. Just a few more breaths here. You might feel the satisfaction of exhaling through the mouth, sticking out the tongue, forcing a yawn, letting out some sound. You might like rocking and rolling a little bit, allowing the knees to extend subtly from one side to the other. Breathing deeply here. Taking your time when it feels complete for you, and I'll invite you to just hang out here as long as it's feeling delicious. Let the feet subtly and slowly transition, so one foot perhaps gets released towards the floor at a time. You might even support that knee. Really hold yourself tenderly as you come out of this happy baby exploration. Allow the soles of the feet to seek the side edges of the mat and the knees to drop in towards each other. Take a moment with your left hand at your heart and your right hand at your abdomen, your elbows heavy at your sides, and just breathe and observe the sensations in the body. On an exhale, allow the arm bones to spill away from the body. Maybe they come out like wings. Maybe they even rise up overhead and rest, elbows and palms akimbo. Let the knees ultimately start to roll towards one side. You can let them fall towards the right perhaps at first, but keep the feet separated and then begin to lift the left knee. Feel the pelvis begin to rock, and it's the pelvis that pulls the second knee over. Here you can start a little windshield wiper surrender, allowing the leg bones to fall up and over with the breath from side to side, allowing the arm bones to be heavy in whatever position is feeling natural and right to you. I will point out that the heavier the arms can be, the heavier the legs are invited to be. So relaxing the pelvis by surrendering the weight of the arms and the leg bones to gravity. The nose might rotate in the opposite direction from the knees. We allow for time where the knees fall apart away from each other before the second knee comes around. Give yourself permission to just continue to explore what feels delicious to you in this moment. And when your low back naturally invites some release and neutrality, draw the knees towards your chest, give yourself a hug. And I'll encourage you to move toward a final neutralizing release that feels good to you. So maybe you're going to take left leg long and hold the right knee in Apanasana, and then transition to a supine twist, drawing the right knee across and down. But maybe there's some other thing that your body is craving here. So please be my guest, of course, honoring the teacher within first and foremost. Taking your time to explore this final spinal release exactly as your body is guiding you. Trusting your body wisdom. And taking your time as we arrive at our point of Shavasana, final pose of surrender. Here you might choose to place your legs up a wall or up onto a chair quickly just to give yourself a little elevation, a little restorative inversion. You may feel like just dropping the legs open like and arms and legs open like a starfish, whatever is natural for you here. Dropping into Shavasana, we'll spend just our last few minutes together in a pose of complete restoration and opportunity for this full integration of the practice. And so take this extra few breaths as you arrive to note where you might bring in even more compassion, even more loving kindness for yourself, even more support, perhaps an eye cover or a moment to massage your jaw. And then falling into the spaciousness that you've cultivated for yourself today, inviting the nervous system to fully integrate and embrace this space of pure potential. Inviting the breath to deepen and allowing for subtle reanimation, gathering your bones very carefully, giving yourself a hug as you roll toward a seated position. We can take our palms together and rest our forehead toward our fingertips. And once again, feel the breath move toward the back of the neck. Once again, relax the shoulders. And once again, take an exhale through the mouth. May the long-time sun shine upon you. May all love surround you. And may the pure light within guide you all the way on. Namaste.